You've seen them, right? The headlines, they pop up every few years, sending this little shiver through the industry. The end of web development is here. And this time, the big bad wolf is, of course, generative AI. Okay, let's really get into this. It's the big question on everyone's mind, isn't it? Is the career we know, the craft we've spent years honing, about to be automated out of existence? Well, according to the source material we're digging into today, the answer is a pretty resounding no. But, and this is a huge but, things are absolutely changing. You know, this slide really puts our current freakout into perspective. This is not the first apocalypse for developers. Back in the late 90s, Dreamweaver was supposed to kill the whole profession. Then in the 2010s, it was WordPress and Wix, promising websites with just a few clicks. And each time, did the industry die? Nope. It adapted. It grew. And that right there is the core argument of this entire explainer. We are not witnessing an extinction event. We're in the middle of a massive transformation, a metamorphosis, really, from one kind of developer into something completely new. So if web development isn't dying, what is? Well, the first thing on the chopping block is, frankly, the most boring part of the job. This section is all about the death of drudgery. We're talking about boilerplate code. Come on, you know exactly what this is. Setting up the same file structures, writing the same basic CSS for a responsive grid, building yet another contact form. It's all that necessary but deeply uncreative work that, guess what? AI is now exceptionally good at handling for us. And this comparison just shows how massive this shift is. What used to take half a day of meticulous manual coding can now be generated in the time it takes you to type a single sentence. The result? Well, the barrier to entry for simple websites has basically vanished. But the upside is that frees up human developers for way more important work. So, with all that tedious work automated, what's taking its place? This is where it gets interesting. We're seeing the rise of a completely new role, the AI-augmented architect. So here's the thing you have to understand. AI is a fantastic coder, but it's a terrible architect. It can write a perfect function in milliseconds, but it has no clue how to design a secure, scalable, and maintainable system. That still requires a human. Our job is shifting from being the bricklayers to being the architects who direct the automated bricklayers. And this new role, well, it requires a whole new toolkit. It's way less about memorizing syntax and so much more about strategy. We're talking about prompt engineering, learning to speak the language of AI. This includes things like vibe coding, where you describe the feeling or the style of the code you want, not just its function. It's about managing whole teams of AI agents that handle testing and deployment for you. And maybe most importantly, it's about doubling down on security, because if an AI can write code fast, it can generate vulnerabilities just as fast. Okay, so you might be thinking, all right, the role is changing, but with AI building so much, will there be less work overall? That's a totally fair question. But the reality is, the web itself isn't shrinking, it's exploding in complexity. I mean, just look at what's happening. Technologies like WebAssembly are letting us run stuff like Photoshop or complex video games right inside a browser tab. We're building user experiences that adapt in real time for every single user. We're creating websites you can literally have a conversation with. These are not simple brochure sites. These are deeply complex applications that require high-level human expertise to even think about building, let alone maintain. Of course, speaking of complexity, we have to talk about the elephant in the room on the other side of the spectrum, the no-code and low-code movement. If anyone can build an app now, where does that leave us professional developers? The numbers are kind of staggering. Projections show that 75%, 3/4 of new application development this year will be handled by these no-code or low-code platforms. And at first glance, that sounds terrifying. But here is the critical context. These platforms are fantastic for building a landing page for a local bakery or simple internal tool. They are not built to handle a global, high-frequency trading platform or a secure healthcare portal that needs to integrate with decades-old legacy systems. For that kind of enterprise-level complexity, the demand for pro coders is actually higher than ever. And all this brings us to the final and I think the most important takeaway from our source material today. It's time to reframe how we think about replacement. Let's just let that sink in for a moment. This might be the single most important sentence to remember from this whole thing. The threat isn't the technology itself. The threat is ignoring it. The developers who are going to thrive will be the ones who embrace AI as the single most powerful tool ever added to their toolkit. Which leaves us with a final question, and it's not for me to answer, it's for you. The tools are changing, the demands are evolving, and a new era of development is dawning. You can be the one who gets replaced or the one who does the replacing. So, what will you be?